Well, I ran out of weight and traction there on the hillside. I figured I'd leave it there because, yeah, I could have gone down and around, come up this way, spent an extra half hour thrashing through the woods. But what happens, and you'll probably see it, is when that log hit the ground, what happens is it kind of does a strain relief, and you'll see it kind of curl up where the base of the log is about a foot and a half off the ground, so it didn't put any weight on my 3-point. There was no lift on it at all. Therefore, I didn't have any weight of the log on the tractor, so the tractor ran out of traction. And I got kind of sick of screwing around with that. I want to see if I can get a few logs out before summertime sets in, and realize I need to get that Uniforest 65H remote control logging winch on that tractor. And one of the things you can do with an operation like that is, well, I'm going to inchworm that log up the hill, because I can remotely from the tractor release it, go forward, set the blade down to the dirt, and then reel it back in, then release it again, drive forward, set that down, reel it back in, and do it that way. Now, the reason I bring this up is a lot of people say, how come a Uniforest versus some of the other brands? And I would say really what this is about is why remote versus the manual. And this situation right here is why, because a lot of my farm is on the hillside, and especially when the snow's on the ground. I guess a year and a half ago I was doing this quite a bit, trying to pull them up out of the swamp. Just didn't have the traction like a big skidder would have, so I had to basically inchworm the logs up and out. But I can't imagine doing that operation where I have to hop out of the tractor, operate some controls on the back of the skidder winch versus sitting right in the chair. So there's a couple of things that are interesting about this. Number one, I kind of like the stand they have. They have that hole right here. Basically, you pull that out and it slides down. When it goes back in, it goes into the hole, so you can pretty much drive away from it after you set those stands. And another thing I like about it is it does have an option for a control box. I have it unplugged. Basically, the control box would plug into this right here. Will plug into here. The plug is up in there. It uses basically like a trailer style plug. So I just went down the Tractor Supply and got one of those receivers and wired it right into my battery. And it has a variety of different places where you can hook up with your 3-point. I have to make it as narrow as possible. Otherwise, when that thing swings an arc behind the tractor, it'll run right to the tires. And my 3-point will hit on the slide right there and not let it go far enough over to do that if I have it on the inside spot right there. But if you have a bigger tractor, maybe outside, maybe up, you can basically do that. And plus just a standard link right there. Does not need hydraulics. It has a hydraulic pump on board. So when you operate the winch, you have to have the PTO on the tractor going, and that builds pressure. You'll see it on the gauge, and once you have pressure, it has a hydraulic ram that releases and engages the clutch. Now this thing is rated for like 12,000 pounds of pull, which is quite a bit. And there's the receiver up there for the little remote operation. But if this failed, I have a box where I can operate it with a box, and it would be like a normal non-remote type of a winch. It has a bunch of slots. See, I don't like holes, I like slots. Holes are a pain in the neck to get the chain in and out of, so having the slots there I think makes sense. I got a spot for my wedge driver, and when you have a really heavy pull, you can take that cable and bring it down to this pulley. That's magnetically held there. If you yank on it, that breaks the magnet tension. And you can set your cable down there so you're not going to tip your tractor up and over. It has a spot for a saw, but I don't use it. It's a small saw. But no, I like it. I mean, I like the way it operates. And so you can tell if you're, even if the tractor's not running, if there's hydraulic pressure, you can operate the controls. If you watch this right here, basically that's the release of the clutch and the engagement of the clutch. And it's done with, again, the hydraulic pressure. And once the hydraulic pressure drops, of course, that won't operate. That's one of the things you got to pay attention to. There's a bunch of adjustments. I'm not going to get into that. Yeah, right here is where you plug in the control box. Now, like I said, what I did is I just wired that directly to the battery. That's why you have power to operate the system right now. It is powered up currently. But here's what it says about itself. I don't know if it makes any sense. And one of the things it has, which I'm not sure I like yet, there's not a lot of places to grease. I'm a guy who greases everything all the time. So I have the PTO shaft, or the drive shaft, but the bearings are supposedly sealed. And I don't really see a place to get in there with a grease gun. I'm going to tear it apart later to see, but I don't see any place to get into it with a grease gun. That's really the only thing I don't like, because I prefer to have a more simplistic bearing and a place to grease. Now that cable, it's about 150 foot long right now. I had to cut a section off because it started to fray. At some point in time, I'm going to have to go up and have them put a new cable on it. But right now, it's going to work for me. It'll work for the rest of this year for sure. But so that's the Uniforest 65H that I have. It's an older one. So what I'm going to do now is go down and fish out that freaking log. And that, my friends, is why you have one of those. See if we can get this thing in stackable landing. I may have to do it one more time, we'll see. These are about 40 or 50 feet. That one might be about 60. You know, good sized trees. You can tell from the back of the tractor they're in the 22 to 26 inch diameter range. Yeah, they're good trees. I got a few I'm going to take out. You know, I got that one over there too. When I get to 25, I stop and I get a truck in here and haul them out. That's the game we play. Now another thing I can do with that logging winch is sometimes I want to push the logs up a little bit. It's a whole lot easier using the logging winch to nudge the logs than it is to use the bucket, you know, and start bending on the bucket frame. So, yeah, back to the saw again. I've got to get down in there, so I have to clean up some of this mess from this winter. That's a basswood tree, which is actually quite long. I'll pull it up and out, and then clear up some of this here and get down there and take down one or two of those ash trees and see if they're too far gone. Now in this direction you probably won't see much in the camera, but there's another 10 to 15 nice sized maples in there. And I'll probably take half of them and leave the rest. But the other thing, if you look, you see those nice straight beech trees? Well, beech doesn't bring much, but ones like this one right here got a little bit of blight started. If I get it now, it's nice and straight and it's big enough in diameter. They can use those for mats for the big cranes and stuff. And I count one, then there's not, this one's too small, the one behind it. And there's a couple over there that I think will fit into that category. So I'm going to take them, and I don't know exactly when. It'll just be one of those when I feel like it. Because again, it's not going to be much money. It'd be about the same as firewood. But I want to get the beech out of here as much as I can. And of course, I got to clean this up. And they take grade 2s for things like railroad ties. So that top right there that I normally would have left, I'm going to pull that up and out. Just start getting it up and out and see if I can get any of it sold. But here we are, back again. Two saws. One thing I've discovered rather graphically is the 572 uses like half as much fuel for the same amount of work as that one does. That one's a hog. You know, you wouldn't notice it unless you ran them side by side, you know what I'm saying? But maybe not that much, but there's a difference. It's a noticeable difference in fuel usage. So I didn't match it up with the other side very well, so that's why you got that goofy curvature. That's as far as it would reach through. So I really needed my 28 on this one. Well, I froze that bearing in that thing. I had it pinched and I just kept it going. See if I can cut it that way out. It was smoking and eventually came to a stop. So I'm not sure I can salvage it, but I'll give it a try. I guess this falls to the category of why you have two saws sometimes. Don't have a lot to do, but we got something to do. You know, just in case anyone might be wondering whether or not there's a difference between my junk pile clone saw and this machine right here, there is absolutely no comparison. Now that this is broke in, I remember when they were about even. But right now, that one there has got some issues going on with its carburation. This thing fired up in 3 pulls and just screams. Does what it does. Now we're going to do another little bit of logging winch gymnastics to get that tree out of there so it doesn't wedge between 2 trees.